Hello, welcome to Spotlight on Souris, brought to you by WCG-TV, Access Channel 12, right here in Souris, Manitoba. Today is April the 16th, 2019. My name is Laura Higgs, and we are down here at the Souris and Glenwood Library to welcome Jean Diehl. She's here with her book signing event. And Jean, welcome. And congratulations
Thank you.
on your book. And it is called And the Valley Goes On.
Right. Right.
And it is about the story of
The Pelican Lake Valley,
Pelican
the town
Lake
of
Valley.
Ninette, and the Manitoba Sanatorium.
Okay, I'm just going to hold this up for our camera. Now, Jean, can you tell me, why did you write this book?
Well, Ninette is very near and dear to my heart, and the valley. I was brought up there. My parents were brought up there, and my grandparents were brought up there. And I just had so much material left when my aunt passed away at the age of 97. She had lived in her house for 80 years, her parents' home, and she just had a lot of things like the bill of sale for my grandfather's old Ford car, 1916.
Really?
And so papers like that, and her mother's diary from when she was a patient in the SAN. And I thought, well, I'm going to organize all this material for my 5 kids, and if I'm going to organize it for them, I might as well share it with anyone that wants it.
So how many years did you take to do this?
I think about 9 years, I think.
Really?
When I started, I had enough sight I could use the computer, but in a few years it got too laborious to do that. So I scribbled in notebooks, and my daughter-in-law Nancy had the job of translating all my scribbling. Yes.
Yeah. So is it a story from front to back, or is it short stories, or is it?
It's written in sections, so you
Okay.
can pick it up and read any section, any part
At any
that
time,
you'd
okay.
like. Yes.
A little adage about particular photos or?
Yes, and there's a lot of information under the photos. It has over 400 photos in it.
Wow. And some scenery. I did notice you had some
yes.
scenery of the valley there.
Yeah, of the valley and the town as it was and as it is now. And just a lot of information. There were actually the Langs were the first family to settle in the valley, and they settled in the north end. And their little area was called Langvale, and there actually was a store and a post office there.
Really?
In the early days, but that all went by the wayside, and there are no Langs left there. And then where I pick up the story, 4 families left Orillia, Ontario, and came up in the 1881. And the men came first and looked the valley over, and they liked it, so they took up homesteads. And those 4 families were the Overends, the Darrows, the Mackeys, and the Davises. And the Overends actually, their homestead was right where the town of Ninette was built. So the Overends were actually the founders of Ninette. The Darrows homesteaded on the land where the Manitoba Sanatorium was built later.
Yeah.
But they found out that there was only one little field that was flat enough to be arable, there and for crops. So they took another homestead further north, and where there was more flat land, and they sold their homestead to Harry Perry, who in turn sold it to Dr. Stewart when they were looking for a site for the sanatorium. And our section, our land was right next to the sanatorium land, so the sanatorium had an effect on us for 3 generations.
I'm sure.
So there's a lot to tell about the sanatorium in there. And my mom, her father came over from England and homesteaded just out of the valley on the north side. And my dad's family, well, his mother, I mentioned the Overends, they were married to a Crawford, and the Crawfords were the link that hooked all the families together. They were all, Crawfords were everywhere,
Mhm.
it seems. And so my grandmother was a Crawford from Ontario who came out to work for her aunt and uncle, the Overends. And they had a store, post office, in the early days. So my grandmother came as a young woman, worked for them, and she met Neil Phillips, who had come out there because his aunt and uncle were Mr. and Mrs. Darrow. So they were married 1899 at the
Wow.
Overend home. And so that's how the Phillipses got there.
Mhm.
Then my dad, of course, married Edith Hunt, and from the Hunts had homesteaded up the valley, up on the hill, and my mom worked at the Sand for 4 years before she was married, and my dad worked at the Sand for 20 years
Mhm.
at the end of the Sand's life, and us kids worked there for summer jobs as well. So I mean, for other reasons we had a lot of contact with the Sand.
The sanatorium you're referring to,
Yes.
the SAN?
Yes, yes.
So it helped to employ a fair
Oh.
amount of your family members.
Oh, yes, it did.
Mhm.
And other people from all over came to work there as
Mhm.
well. Doctors and, just ordinary people
Mhm.
came. Some stayed, and some of the patients stayed on and worked as well.
Was that right?
The story's in the book.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so
Good.
anyway, Ninette, of course, saw a bit of a tourist boom in the early days. They had some big boats that plied the lake and took people down for picnics, and excursion trains came from Winnipeg. Once the railroad came out, people came in, flooded in for Sunday outings
Mhm.
on the lake, on the big boats.
On the lake.
Yes.
Which you were saying was a big part of your time that you spent staring out at the lake, and it brings you some comfort.
It does. It's like a rejuvenation for my soul,
Mhm.
just to go sit by the water.
And what shore were you talking about? You said the...
Well, I walked around the end of the lake to school all my
Mhm.
life, and of course, there you saw the wind and the rain and all the elements and how the lake took it, sort
Right,
of.
right.
And then it just was part of our lives. My dad fished, everybody fished,
Mhm.
and so it was always there. And there's a section on the lakes. The lake took a lot of lives as well.
Mhm.
I shouldn't say a lot, but some, of course, being angry water at times.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
And but it was always there, and it was always beautiful, and
Mm-hmm.
you could sit on a hillside and look out over the valley, and I used to think about how it must have looked to the first white people that came. I often wished I'd been one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I could have seen it before the roads and railroads made their scars on the...
The more modern marks,
Exactly.
for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
But that is so much a part of your being and rejuvenates you so much that you even have it on your screen, on your computer screen as your screensaver,
Yeah,
right?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
That's my desktop picture.
So-
And I can look at that and feel like I'm there
Mm-hmm.
almost,
So it continues to infuse you in,
Oh,
your,
yeah. Oh,
in your
it's...
sense of well-being.
It's great, yeah. Now there must be 1,000 homes around the lake.
Mhm.
It's really been taken up, and
Sure, it's changed a lot over
it
the years.
has,
Mhm.
yeah.
And the sanatorium was there for how many years?
From 1912 till the late 60s, I
Mhm.
believe, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of
It,
years.
It saw like thousands of footprints came through there.
Mm-hmm.
They had, I think, in the peak days, they had some 400 and some patients
Oh, my
there.
goodness.
And staff, of course.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it was like a big family, it was,
Sure.
they had their picnics and their concerts and their fundraisers,
Mm-hmm.
and we were part of it. I chummed with some of the doctor's kids there and spent a lot of time at the Sand.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
I bet.
Yes.
So you were there till till your young adult life?
I left in 1951 when I finished high school
Okay,
and went to Winnipeg to become a teacher.
okay.
Yeah.
And then how did you end up here in Souris?
Oh, well, because my husband was a carpenter, he came here to work, and
Okay,
I married Wilf Diehl from Cypress River,
okay.
and we ended up living in Souris and
Hmm.
raising our family here, so.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
But the Valley and Ninette never left you and always inspired you.
They did, and of course my aunt was there, and I sort of took care of her in her elder years, and I was her executor, so I got to see her, all her keepsakes, all her
History as well.
history as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
My grandfather was the butcher there, my step-grandpa,
Mm-hmm.
and he had the butcher shop and the slaughterhouse, so there are lots of memories there too.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. So, what was your favorite part of putting this book together?
Oh, I think the section on growing up in Strathcona,
Yeah?
because I guess I enjoyed my childhood. I was a rambler. I loved to be out in nature, and yeah, until my sister left home, and then of course I had to, duty called me to
Yeah.
take over some of her chores. and
Yeah, exactly.
That sort of ended my
Obligations.
days as a
Right.
kid, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. But
Right.
that's my favorite part of the book, is growing up in Strathcona.
Oh.
I
Okay.
would turn there first if I was you. Mind you, the family histories are fascinating too, because in my great-grandfather Hunt took off for Australia and left his wife in England with 4 children.
Oh,
And so there's a story there. And my great-great-grandfather Phillips was a taxidermist in England and came over to teach nature study and so on at King's College in Toronto. So it's rumored. We can't prove it because their records were destroyed in a fire, but that's family lore. And so he was quite the old boy. I think he would be an interesting old guy. So
Mhm.
you want to read about him too.
yeah.
Everybody should get their family history down
Yes.
somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do as well. Have someone in my family that takes care of that, and I can't wait to read my sister's book whenever she puts it together too.
Great. I
But-
hope I see it too.
Yeah. But that is a wonderful, wonderful project, and congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on Spotlight on Souris to share your memories and your journey about writing this book, and the journey of your life, what actually led to the book.
It was my pleasure, Laura.
Thank
you.
Spotlight in Souris is brought to you by volunteers of WCG-TV. I'd like to thank all of them right now, Gil, Sheila, and Mark. And my name is Laura Higgs. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great day.